Redeemed from the curse of Belial. Do failure and frustration seem to be a lot in your life? Is your life characterized by continual setbacks and misfortunes? Does it appear as though no matter what you do in life, you cannot seem to obtain the blessings of AHAYAH? Often the most frustrating thing about the whole scenario is the fact that you are a believer and love AHAYAH, Jorge, our mighty God. According to Galatians 3:13, we are redeemed from the curse, and in other words, Yeshua Jorge the Messiah became a curse in our stead. If this is true, then how can a believer still be under a curse? Unfortunately, there are still many believers living under curses even though they have been legally redeemed from the curses. Just as a believer may have to fight a good fight of faith for healing, he or she may also have to fight a good fight of faith against curses. Many of the curses that can afflict or affect a person's life come as a result of one of the most wicked and vile spirits in the kingdom of darkness, the spirit of Belial. He is a ruling spirit of wickedness. This is a host of demons that operate under his command, cursing the lives of people, which we will discuss in the next chapters coming up in this book. Belial is mentioned 27 times in the Old Testament and once in the New Testament. It is from the Hebrew word Belial, which is translated as Belial 16 times in the Old Testament. This word is also translated in other verses as wicked, ungodly, and naughty. Strong's definition in Belial is without profit, worthlessness, destruction, wickedness, evil, naughty. The most common of these definitions is worthlessness. Webster's dictionary of worthless is valueless, useless, contemptible, despicable. Despicable is defined as deserving to be despised, so worthless and obnoxious as to rouse moral indignation. Therefore, Belial's work is to curse men and women, causing them to commit sins that are vile and contemptible. All sin is wrong, and I do not make any excuses of allowance for any sin. However, there are some sins more abominable than others. That is, there are different degrees of sin. Under the law, there were some sins that were considered abomination and punishable by death, while other sins require certain sacrifices. Belial's work is to draw a nation into such abominable sins that it will bring the curses and the judgment of God, El Elohim. When I observe the practices and sins that are happening in our nation today, I know that the spirit of Belial is behind them. Belial is a strong man in America as well as other nations of the world. Belial is a world ruler of wickedness. Yeshua Jorge Yahusha taught us the necessity of binding the strong man in order to spoil his goods, as mentioned in Matthew 12:29. The prayers in this book are meant to do just that. As you pray, Belial, the world ruler of wickedness, will be bound, and his demonic hold on you and on your family and community will be broken. So now we're going to get into Belial, chapter 1, curses caused by the spirit of idolatry. Certain men, the children of Belial, are gone out from among you and have withdrawn the inhabitants of their city, saying, Let us go and serve other gods, which ye have not known, as mentioned in Deuteronomy 13:13. This verse is the first mention of Belial in the Word of God. AHAYAH Jorge identifies men who attempt to lead his people away from him to serve other gods as children of Belial. In the King James Version, this passage of Scripture goes on and to describe their action. If you hear someone in one of your cities, which AHAYAH Jorge, your El Elohim, mighty God, gives you to dwell in, saying, Corrupt men have gone out from among you, and enticed the inhabitants of their city, saying, Let us go and serve other gods which you have not known, then you shall inquire, search out, and ask diligently, and if it is indeed true, and certain such an abomination was committed among you, you shall surely strike the inhabitants of that city with the hedge of the sword, utterly destroying it, all that it is in it, and its livestock, with the hedge of the sword. And it shall gather all its plunder into the middle of the street, and completely burn it with fire, and the city and all its plunder, for AHAYAH Jorge your God, and it shall be a heap forever. It shall not be built again, so none of the accused things shall remain in your hand, and that AHAYAH Jorge may turn from the fierceness of his anger and show you mercy, have compassion on you, multiply you just as he swore to your fathers, as mentioned in Deuteronomy 13, verses 12 through 17. Children of Belial indicates individuals who were under the control of Belial. They were being used by Belial to draw the people of El Elohim, mighty God, away from him to serve other gods. It is interesting to note that the word idol is the Hebrew word for Elul, which means good for nothing, vain or vanity, or no value, thing of naught. This can be summed up in one word, worthless. Belial, which means worthlessness, tries to lead men astray to follow something that is worthless. Idols are worthless. They have no value and they cannot satisfy. There is a principle of Bible study that we can call the law of first reference. This law of Bible study says that whatever a subject or a particular word is first mentioned in the Bible, there are some important principles that we must found concerning the subject or the word. The first principle we see in connection with Belial is that he attempts to draw people away from worshiping the true God. AHAYAH, under Belial, or spirits that will seduce people and draw them away from AHAYAH, our king. As a result, the demon spirits operating under the rulership of Belial inflict the people who have been drawn away from the protection of God, and bondages and curses them often lead to destruction. The Apostle Paul prophesied in the latter times some shall depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devils, as mentioned in 1 Timothy 4:1. To seduce means to lead away, to persuade to disobedience or disloyalty, to lead astray by perversion or false promises, to attract, to lure. The Living Bible translates of this verse says, some in the church or assembly or congregation would turn away from Christ or the Messiah. This is known as apostasy. Webster Dictionary defines apostasy as abandonment of a previous loyalty defection. I believe this is the reason why so many churches and so many denominations have abandoned the faith. Some have even ordained homosexuality as ministers. What an abomination. This is no doubt the work of Belial, seducing spirits to cause many to apostatize. So we're going to get into some of the prayers, characteristics of spirits of Belial. Our first prayer. Father, Abba, Yahayah, AHAYAH, your word tells me some worthless people have talked everywhere to everyone there into worshiping other gods, even though the gods have never done anything for them. You instruct me to carefully find out if it's rumor or it's true, and call such actions a disgusting thing, as mentioned in Deuteronomy 13:13-14. Make me a watchman on the wall to guard against these worthless spirits leading those I know and loved ones astray. Father, AHAYAH, the spirits of Belial cause people to be so selfish that you refuse to help the poor, even when the poor or their own relatives. You warn me not to be like that, and say that if that person I refuse to help tells you of the wrong that I do, you will say to them, I am guilty. Protect me from the spirits of Belial who make people so selfish. AHAYAH, my God, my El Elohim, mighty God, the spirits of Belial is so perverted that it watches for strangers to visit your people and then demands the strangers to be given to perverse men and women to satisfy their homosexuality, their homosexual lusts. Keep me ever watchful, AHAYAH. I pray thee for those who would be stolen away by the homosexual lust of Belial, and make me a strong wall of protection and my home a locked fortress against the spirit. Your word tells the horrible story of a traveling Levite who with his wife spent a night in the home of a fellow Jew or Yehuda who lived in a city filled with men who were no longer living for you, El Elohim, mighty God, but were filled with the spirit of Belial. These men surrounded the men's home and demanded that the Levite be given to them for homosexual relations. Rather than protecting his wife, this Levite threw his own wife out the door, and she repeatedly raped by these evil men and died. And he ended up cutting her up in 12 pieces and sending each piece to the tribes that did this. AHAYAH, teach me to heed the warning of this story and never become so apathetic toward you that I will be willing to give up my own family member to evil. Keep me safe in the protection of your will so that I never stray from you and fall victim or allow my loved ones to fall victim to the spirits of Belial. AHAYAH. When Hannah was interceding in the temple for a son, she was thought to be daughter of Belial, who was drunk. Help me to recognize that the spirit of Belial would attempt to bring me under the bondage of some addictive sins that trap me. Help me to recognize the addictive bondage to avoid anything that could draw me subtly into bondage. Father Jorge, you called the sons of Eli priests in your temple, sons of Belial who were living in sin, even as they pretended to be men of you, men of God. Protect the men and women who have accepted your calling to ministry and shield them from the hidden sins that will lead them away from you. Break the power of sin from their lives and keep them true and honorable shepherds who lead your people into righteousness. Abba, Father, Ayah, Jorge, like Eli's sons, so many church leaders, a congregation of assembly leaders, and men of you, men of God, today have fallen prey to the spirit of Belial and have ended up broken, bound by sin, and unworthy to serve as your shepherds. Help me to pray and intercede for your shepherds. Break the power of Belial to lead your servants astray. Keep them pure and holy and blameless before AHAYAH Jorge and before the people they are leading. Abba, Father, Jorge. As soon as Samuel had anointed Saul to be king, the spirit of Belial immediately attacked him by casting doubt to the people about his ability to lead them and by their refusing to honor him with their gifts. The spirit of Belial was already at work filling Saul with self-doubt and insecurities about his abilities. Even though he had held the peace, the spirit began to insidious attack against him, ultimately leading him to reject you and fail miserably at the job you had called him to do. Make me strong against Belial when it tempts me to doubt you and you have called me to do, or tempts me to feel inadequate or inept. Make me powerful through your spirit and defeat the spirit of Belial from my life. AHAYAH. When King David asked the rich man Nabal to share some food with him and his men as they were passing nearby, Nabal was so filled with the spirit of Belial that he refused to give David any food, even though David and his men had already treated the servants of Nabal kindly and with respect. Nabal sent a rude message back to David saying, "What makes you think I would take my bread and water and the meat that I have cooked for my own servants to give it to you?" AHAYAH Jorge, may I never become like Nabal. Give me a generous heart and a spirit filled with your mercy and compassion, and break the power of Belial from turning me into a Nabal. Abba, Father, Jorge, AHAYAH, Yahuwah. Even Nabal's own wife, Abigail, recognized how sinfully bound he was by the spirit of Belial. She generously fed David and his men and apologized for her evil husband, saying, "Sir, please let me explain. Don't pay any attention to that good-for-nothing Nabal. His name means fool, and it really fits him. May I never be identified as a fool or a son or daughter of Belial. Protect me from the sinful selfishness, stinginess. Allow me to be an Abigail, not a Nabal, in the way I treat others." AHAYAH Jorge, Yahuwah. Your word teaches that the spirit of Belial can creep into among believers and bind them to sinful and evil desires. Even some of David's men were servants of Belial, and David had to rebuke them from being greedy and unwilling to share with those less fortunate than them. Reveal any greediness and selfishness in my heart and break the spirit of Belial from out of my life. Abba, Father, Jorge, AHAYAH. We learn from the examples of Shimei that the spirit of Belial will cause us to accuse others of the very sins we have in our own lives. Shimei, one of Saul's relatives, blamed David for the death of Saul and accused him of stealing the kingdom. This man was so possessed by the spirit of Belial that he could not see your plan of David's commitment to your plan. Father, keep me from being blinded by the spirit of Belial. Reveal my own sinfulness and evil, and keep me from accusing your children of ungodliness, evil tendencies at work in my own life. Father, Abba, AHAYAH, Yahuwah. Your word teaches us to deal firmly and permanently with other believers who allow the spirit of Belial to cause him to lead in a rebellion against your servants. When David recognized that a member of the tribe of Benjamin was inciting a rebellion against him, he took action. He knew that evil spirits could break down the protection spiritual walls around the believers' lives and cause them to fall into evil with Sheba. He pulled his army together and chased after Sheba until he found him and made sure he had been defeated and killed. Give me the courage to curse the spirit of Belial and destroy it from my life and from the lives of other believers so it cannot tear down the protective spiritual walls around our hearts and lead us into evil. Father, Abba, AHAYAH, Yahuwah. David recognized that the evil flooding out from the spirit of Belial can cause us to be afraid and swallow us up in the flood of evil. When I am afraid and in the midst of terrible trouble, help me to be like David and to call out to you for help. Protect me from overwhelming floods of Belial. Abba, Father, AHAYAH, Yahuwah. Help me to recognize the power of Belial and to arm myself with the sword of your spirit to fight this evil spirit. It cannot be pulled up like thorn bushes or dug up by hand. It requires a short spear to destroy it and must be burned on the spot. Keep me from trying to find evil in my own strength. Arm me with your spirit and strength and burn evil from my life. The spirit of Belial is a lying spirit that accuses your children and carries out evil plots against them to destroy them and steal everything that belongs to them. This is revealed in the story of Ahab and Jezebel plot against Naboth. Make me a fearless, courageous servant like Eliyahu, who was not afraid to confront these evil servants of Belial and to forecast their judgment from El Elohi, mighty God, to a horrible death. Father, Abba, AHAYAH, when evil Jeroboam and his followers set out to destroy the righteous followers of you, El Elohi, Abiah, king of Judah, confronted him and declared, El Elohi, AHAYAH, is on our side. You might as well give up. There is no way you can defeat AHAYAH. With AHAYAH, our El Elohi's help, Abiah defeated Jeroboam and the people of Israel who had rebelled against AHAYAH to become servants of Belial. When your people today rebel against you and begin to serve Belial, rise up Abiahs who will stand for righteousness and godliness in the midst of apathy and evil. Make me an Abiah and arm me for the battle for righteousness in America. AHAYAH, Yahuwah, in times of illness and physical distress, keep my eyes focused on you, not turning to the left or right, and my heart strong in my faith that you can heal me. The spirits of Belial would try to tell me you have some fatal disease. You'll never get well. Help me to reject the voices of Belial that will whisper defeat, destruction, and death in my ear. Raise me up to strength and physical wholeness by your power, and block the tauntings of Belial from my ears. AHAYAH, I refuse to be corrupt or to take part in anything crooked, and I will not allow the spirit of Belial to take control of my life. I won't be dishonest or deceitful. I will live my life in purity and honor. I will listen only to your spirit and will resist the spirit of Belial from entering my life. AHAYAH, worthless liars who have been bound by Belial go around deceiving others. I will not be one of these worthless liars. I will speak only your truth and will only seek to lead others into the path of righteousness. AHAYAH, Yahuwah, the spirit of Belial destroys the godly value you have given us and causes us to become worthless. Your word says worthless people plan trouble. Even their words burn like flaming fire. May I never become worthless to you. May I never play with the fire of Belial and become burned by evil. I will not allow the spirits of Belial to destroy my value to you and to others. AHAYAH, my Father, my Abba, your word says a lying witness makes fun of the court system and criminals think crime is really delicious. Help me to recognize that The lying witness in America today who mocked the godly principles this nation was founded on an attempt to convince others that ungodliness is right. Amass the spirit of Belial in the voices of those who lobby for ungodly practices and rules, who attempt to water down the righteous principles of this nation and lead us into sinful acts and behaviors. Right the wrongs that have crept into our justice system, into our schools and government, and that are attempting to lead this nation into sinful practices. AHAYAH, your word says that the evil plans a wicked servant of Belial makes against you or your children are doomed. No matter how strong the evil plan is, I am AHAYAH to keep my eyes on you and not to be fearful of the evil plan of Belial. I will not fear Belial, even when his plans seem too strong to overcome. I will defeat evil thoughts, your power, and in the strength of your spirit. El Elohi, mighty God, AHAYAH, Yahuwah. Your word says plainly that people who are not your followers have nothing in common with the people who do follow you. You instruct me, leave them and stay away. Don't touch anything that isn't clean. Then I will welcome you and be your father. You will be my sons and my daughters as surely as I am God, the all-powerful. I commit myself to you, AHAYAH, my king, and I welcome you as my father, and I will not touch the filthy evil of Belial, and I will live only for you for all the days of my life. In Yeshua Jorge's name, I give honor, worship, and praise to you. Amen. So be it.